Well, my name's Noah, ain't it? This is a perfect segue.
Guys, welcome to the Noah Messarge podcast. Today's guest is Noah Lehman of the Lehman family. Noah, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Noah, of course. When I started this show, did I say show or?
Yes, you said show.
Okay.
At least you didn't say podcast.
Shut the fuck up. This is not a podcast, Noah. This is higher.
Hey. I gave you the perfect layup for your intro, and now you're just criticizing your guest.
I'm not criticizing. We're chill here.
Oh, okay.
But guys, welcome to the Noah Messarge show. Today's guest is Noah Lehman. Noah Lehman and we worked together for a long time at the same church.
Yeah.
We were in the sound booth a lot together.
Hours and hours.
So many hours. How many hours? Just a rough estimate do you think we spent in the sound booth since me and you started working there?
I personally spent about 2.5, 3 years.
How many hours is that? I'm terrible at math.
Each year is 52 weeks.
Even though that's my job.
Yeah, and we would average about 3.5 hours being there each time. Each week we were there about 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So if you average...
Even though we were only supposed to be there twice a week, Sunday and
Well,
Wednesday.
I count 3 because I had sound practice.
That's right. And you know what? The thing with worship practice, we'll call it worship practice because that's what they call it.
You're right.
The thing with worship practice is they need the sound guy to turn on the soundboard and make sure the sound levels are soundy.
I was offered an out, actually. I was offered the out to not have to show up because they knew how to turn everything on. I just said I'd rather show up because it improves my ability to help on Sunday.
So now you're even better than you were at maintaining a soundboard, and you don't do anything with those
Yeah,
skills.
I let those perish pretty much. Like, if I tried to remember that exact board and how I did everything, I might retain 25, 30.
Well, the thing is with sound and music and stuff like that is you gotta like those skills kind of transfer over to other soundboards and equipment
Well,
if
they
you're
do.
using them regularly.
Consistently. Yeah. Like,
correct?
the most I remember is like the chords.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily remember their names, but I would know how to hook stuff up. I wouldn't necessarily know how to find my way across the soundboard itself. I could still pretty much figure out. I can still remember how to figure out where the problem would be in the board.
And where was the problem?
Well, for like if you had a sound problem, so like the main lead singer or whatever would not be coming through too well.
Oh, so, my problem was every time we would be together, I'd be like, "Oh my god, this guy is shouting in the microphone like constantly."
Who is that?
It starts okay. It's first letter T, last letter M, and his last name rhymes with Schmadams.
Oh.
Can I be more specific?
No, please don't. No, I wasn't. No, I'm trying to say it's like I'd have a problem with my equipment.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying I had a problem with anybody's voices.
Yeah.
I could find a problem on the board because I remember having to constantly look for why people's voices weren't coming through my sound system.
And why was that?
Because electronics are finicky as heck. I couldn't explain why everything could run perfect Thursday night for worship practice, and then come Sunday morning, the lead doesn't come through on his bass.
It's because the lead was hung over from the night before. How many?
Pretty sure most of the leads, except for one that I can think of.
I know the same one because he's my boss.
No, not him.
Oh. What?
No.
Huh?
Starts with a T.
What?
Oh my gosh.
And with a what? What does it end with?
A Z.
What does it rhyme with?
Well, it doesn't end with a Z, but if you... Hertz.
Mueller?
No. Never mind. Doesn't matter.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay, that's fine. We'll leave it at that. Anyways. Yeah. But no, like electronics can be finicky. Sometimes the wire just goes bad when you're hooking up.
Yeah.
And or somebody will stretch a cord.
You know what that means, Noah? That means the building is infested with mice who chew wires. That's what that means. How many mice do you think lived in that building that this church was at? Roughly.
I only ever saw one in 3 years.
I think there was a family of 18.
Why so specific?
Look.
Mice can only have 9 at a time, I think.
I know, but they
so you're saying only 2 females gave birth?
There was 2 families.
Only ever gave birth once.
There was 2 families, and they were full, and they were loving to each other. These family of mice, and I saw the mice. I did. I was in the drop ceiling when I was doing some investigation. Not on anything specific, obviously.
Well, we can argue about whether you call that investigation.
What do you think I'm referring to?
Yeah, more than I care to get into.
Okay, well then we don't have to get into it. But I was doing investigation research into this church at this time.
Yeah,
I was
and you found a loving family.
I saw
19. You're sure it's 19?
It was 18, Noah.
18.
It was 18. It was a family of 18 mice.
So it's two families, 2 females,
2 females, 2 males.
And
they had a full house.
Wait a second. That's 4. That's 14. So they had 7 each.
Yes.
Why were there 2 males? They didn't fight.
No.
That's a weird family.
It kind of reminded me of like, do you know the Duggars, like that show, the 19 Kids and Counting?
Did it end at 19?
Yeah. They had a baby that died, apparently.
When was this?
This was like years ago, but like while the show was running, they had another kid and they were like, oh God, like Michelle's pregnant again. What are we going to do? And she just plops out a dead fetus and they're like, oh no, we got to bury this one. It's still 19 and counting. You don't remember this at all?
No.
Did you watch the show?
I tried not to and I hated it every time my mother did.
Same. But
wait, your mother watched it?
No, my sister.
My mother loved it. Well, for a certain amount of time.
As I was saying, in the show, 19 Kids and Counting, they had another family who was like a huge... They had over a dozen kids.
Yeah.
It wasn't called 19 Kids.
I remember.
The Bates? Was it the Bates?
I think it was.
Am I right? This can't be possible. I can't be right. Is it right?
It is hard to believe that you'd be right about a lot of things.
I find that too hard to believe, Noah.
Yep.
But I think I'm right. The Bates family had a dozen kids. Anyways, my point is this family of mice that was living in the drop ceiling reminded me of 19 Kids and Counting and the Bates family together. Like if they...
That would be like 31 kids.
But minus...
10 plus 19?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be 29.
Okay, well,
but you said there was 12.
Minus to whatever
so
would
that's
equal
31.
18.
My math is right.
No, like I'm not...
Wait, now is the Duggars 19 including the parents?
No.
That's just kids.
I think it's 19 kids. 19 Kids and Counting was the show. It wasn't Duggars 19. Question mark? It was 19 Kids and Counting. So they had 19 kids and there were like, maybe some more.
Well, I don't
Probably not. Michelle's getting up there in age, but maybe.
I don't think they probably planned that last one.
That last one was... Well, why would they name the show 19 Kids and Counting, Noah? If they weren't planning another... They were really
I don't think...
The show is really the Jimbo Duggar being like, how many fucking kids can my wife's cunt pop out?
But I don't think he was planning on having 19. It's not often that a lady can...
No, it's not.
Like, it's actually a very rare thing that a lady can do more than...
It's almost like a magic trick. Like,
I'm
Michelle
not...
Duggar is like a fucking magician of popping kids out
I'm
of
not
her
going
vagina
to
hole.
degrade a person's ability to procreate. Because it's a very rare thing to be able to do 19 kids.
That's the magic right there.
It's not a magic trick.
kind of is though.
Like,
a
because,
little bit.
like, okay, think of this. It is not unusual for ladies to have complications. And during those complications, oftentimes, especially when it involves surgery or C-section, sometimes the lady ends up being sterile or incapable of having kids after that. And the fact that she was not only able to have
One.
kids past 6,
That's
but
shocking enough.
19 of them, and still no surgical problems. It's impressive.
Yeah.
I only say that because no man would probably ever anticipate or plan to have 19 kids.
No, not one man, but
The man used a lot of hairspray,
yeah.
and that was probably just so he could keep his hair.
Are we still talking about the Duggar family?
Yes. They had an episode, this I do remember. They had an episode where they remodeled the
Bates family?
No, the
Oh.
Duggars.
Okay.
They remodeled the parents' bathroom. And Mr. Duggar's spot on the counter was covered in a thick layer of hairspray because he uses hairspray. That much I do remember. So I was just joking about that, really.
Wait, so he wanted to keep his hair? Does he still have his hair? Do we know? I'm going to pull up an image of Jim Duggar today. It's going to be right here. Okay. Does he still have his hair? We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it together. Jim Duggar.
Magic.
Right, this guy right here?
Yeah.
Does he have hair?
Lucky
Does he
man.
not? We don't know.
Lucky man.
A lucky man?
Yeah. Well,
No man.
Well, think of this.
That is the most unluckiest man.
Think of this. He not only had a lady who was able to have such few...
such a fine uterus.
in any case, 19 kids without too many severe problems.
Yeah.
And still didn't want to kill him. At least publicly.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he was making money. He was making
I don't even...
boatloads
I don't know
of
what
money.
his job was.
After every episode, they didn't show this in the show, but he would have a wheelbarrow of the money he made from that episode, and he would be walking to his house and he'd be like, "Hey,
He
guys."
had a job.
That's a fake job, Noah.
Oh my goodness.
Guys, why
Some
are we
would
talking
argue
about
that
Duggars? This
you
is
brought it up because of mice
Yeah,
in an attic.
because you said I was not doing proper investigation work when I totally was.
Prior to this, you said, how many mice do you think lived in the previous church? I said 1. You
Yeah.
said, I think 19.
Because I saw him. I said 18, by the way. You keep on saying 19.
I don't know why I
We'll
keep...
cut back to me saying 18
You
the
keep-
first time.
you-
and continually.
You
after
infected my brain with 19.
that. I don't know how. I only said 18. How could
Well,
I
you
infect
started
your brain
talking
with
about the
19?
Duggars is what the problem is.
Guys, this is not... we're not
Whenever
talking
you
about the
start talking about the
Duggars.
Duggars, that's a problem.
We've been talking about the Duggars for roughly about 15 minutes now.
That's your fault.
Do you,
That has nothing to do with me.
I don't think that's my fault.
I not only didn't bring up the mice, I also didn't bring up how many. And you also... Yeah, that's all you, sir.
It's all me. Okay,
That is
guys, it's
all
all
you.
me. Blame it on me. Blame this last 15
But to
minutes
get back
of
to
the
the-
show on me.
Can I cut you off?
Yeah.
Can you be considerate to let me cut you off?
Yeah. Oh, no, Noah. Don't feel bad for cutting me off. I'm equal to you.
Good. Back to the hours per
Yes.
year for myself being around about 3 hours every time I went. Times 3 times 52.
And what is that number?
That's 156 hours a year. Pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many years?
3. But that's actually a conservative number because that doesn't count the extra hours for special events. Christmas, Thanksgiving, plays.
Practice, choir. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, but I didn't have to
Remember the
necessarily
choir?
stick around for that because
Yeah.
I just show up and turn it on and leave. Because practicing choir just means you have
Is
speakers.
there anything worse than a church choir?
Yes.
Auschwitz?
No.
You're saying Auschwitz is not worse than the church choir?
I didn't
Noah?
say that.
You just said no. I was like, is there anything worse than a church choir? You said no. Wait, you said yes.
I said yes.
And I was like, Auschwitz? And you were
Yes.
like, no.
But the no was said in the context of like a resignated denial of why would you go that far.
But you, okay, well, you did.
I did say no, I admit.
Yes.
But my no wasn't in denial of Auschwitz being worse
than a church choir.
than a church choir.
But a church choir is pretty bad.
Well, it depends on the church.
It depends on the choir.
Yeah.
Depends on the church.
Well, that depends on the church, yeah.
So we're
The,
back at
the
square
pool
one.
of talent can only be as big as the congregation that comes in. And then it's even smaller because only
a
certain-
select few.
a certain type of person would even raise their hand and volunteer. It's not like they turned away volunteers, even if they were bad singers,
That's.
because we were inclusive. We didn't say, no, your voice sucks. Go away.
Would you like to talk about the pastor of this church? Nobody knows.
Not really.
Okay.
What? You seem to be wanting to.
No.
Okay.
I just remember a specific event.
Would you like? I'm gonna cut you off again.
No, you did
Oh,
already.
Yeah. Would you like to know what's worse than a church choir
Noah.
in the context of
You
church?
can't
I mean,
say, "Hey, can I cut you off?"
as the reason for cutting you off.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I
You know,
did.
I don't care.
But I did.
You already did.
I
it.
politely cut you off.
You know, let's just keep on going with it.
Just because you never heard of that style doesn't mean that style doesn't exist.
What's worse than a church choir? Let me know.
Within the context of a church, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A children's church choir, specifically.
Have you seen that video?
You know I'm right.
Do you know what? Are we talking about the same video though? There's a video. We'll show it somewhere.
I don't know what he's talking about.
How do you know? I haven't even said it yet.
Well, you said you're going to show a video. I'm not in agreement with
I'm
the
just
whatever
saying-
video you're going to show.
There's a video of a kid at a church choir, and it's a children's church choir, and he's like looking at the paper, like what with the fucking like what to say on it, the music script, whatever, and he visibly looks away and like looks up, and he's just like, ah, and he just like shouts into the like abyss, and then they cut.
Was he amazing?
No, he was screaming in agony.
I thought he had his
in a
America's
church
Got
choir
Talent
would.
moment. No. So we didn't have like specific like one microphone in front of people.
No.
We had the above hanging microphone.
That's right.
So you got the choir effect.
You get the choir effect with half the price of a choir.
Well, we typically only had like, so the bigger one, we had like close to 40 people. But typically we only had about like 25, 30.
I like the choir stands that people would stand on. What are those called?
Raised stairs. I don't know. They look like stairs.
They do look like stairs.
They're
no.
just bigger.
bigger
So that bodies can stand on them without touching
and
each other.
support the weight. Because honestly, if you think about it, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Who's the type of person to sign up for a church choir?
You do realize stairs
Big
stairs have to hold people.
Ladies. I'm sorry. Were you saying something?
Yeah, stairs have to hold people. You don't have to be fat to have to.
I understand. But they need to be big for big ladies. Guys, we all know this person. She's big.
No.
She's glorious, but not in the right sense. And she's loud. She's very loud. And she's glowing with sparklers that she put on her head.
Well, the Lord said. What does the Lord say?
What did... Noah, tell me what the Lord said.
Make a joyous noise unto the Lord.
Make a joyous noise unto the Lord.
I might have butchered that. I haven't really been up on my reading.
No, when was the last time you made a joyous noise to the Lord?
Earlier today.
Really? Can you tell us about that?
I was singing along with Spotify worship music.
What song came on?
I forget what they call it. Is it Crucified with Jesus?
Does that mean we're all bearing our own cross? We're crucified with Jesus?
No.
We all come along and we're like, hey, we brought our sleeping bags over, Jesus.
No,
We're crucified with you?
No.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that.
okay.
I
We
don't.
can go into that, Noah.
Is this a theological podcast?
It
Sorry,
can
my
be.
bad. The Noah Messarge Show. I apologize.
Stop calling it a podcast.
You started it.
I did not. When did I mention that this was a podcast at any point in this specific recording?
The pre-start to the start.
Yeah, but I said in this specific recording.
Oh.
Did I call it a podcast?
You questioned if you had.
I did question, and we can cut back.
You even said. Did I say show? In reference to the fact that you were self-conscious.
No, if I didn't say show and you just made me believe I said show, I'm going to fucking kill you.
No, you said show.
Okay.
I even agreed with you at the beginning.
Okay.
Please cut back to that too. Yeah. But yeah, so I made a joyous noise. And no, crucified does not mean, in this context, that literally I have a cross that I'm nailed to.
Yeah.
So.
But you're crucified with Jesus. What does that entail?
It means that the sins are paid for or atoned for.
But you're with him. So I expect you to be at least at the scene. What was that hill called?
What?
The hill that Jesus died on.
You want like the modern thing of Calvary?
Oh, is it Calvary? I don't know.
Or are you talking about like the Mount Skull or whatever?
Mount Skull. That's pretty rock and roll, man.
I'm more, I guess. I wouldn't say that was a rock and roll situation, but yeah.
In some bands, like there's a lot of different genres out there, but I feel like some bands would be like, that's pretty rock and roll. We're gonna bring our guitars and our amps, and we're gonna fucking rock out on Mount Skull.
Skull. It's a cool name.
That is a pretty cool name.
Like imagine like if we just like as a society was like morbid enough, but still normal.
Yeah.
Just went around and said, "Oh yeah, that's Mount Skull over there."
That's fucking rock, man.
Yeah, but instead we have like Mount Olympus or whatever. It's like,
where's that at?
I don't know.
I
just made that up.
Just make that up?
Yes.
I believed this guy.
I mean, it was just a hypothetical that doesn't exist.
Well, no, that's not very considerate.
Well, I forget the name of the mount that you can climb. I bike it sometimes.
Everest?
No.
Can you bike Mount Everest?
I was talking about in my neck of the woods.
Oh. Your neck of the woods. So you want to you want these people to look this up and know where you're located?
I'm sure there's more mountains and hills and mounts called this exact name, if I could remember it.
We are in Virginia, guys.
Yes.
I haven't mentioned that.
I think you did.
Did I already? I think I did too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or unless I was in the pre-start to this. So.
No, when I hit record and we started talking, that's the beginning of the episode.
Well, I'm sure you could cut back to.
We're not going to cut back to that.
Okay.
But we're going to cut back to the other stuff.
Okay. My bad.
Noah, I would like for you to tell me about your childhood, if you're comfortable, because I know this has been a little hostile at points. It's been a little sarcastic at points. If you could just tell us about your childhood and what all that entailed. I'm talking religion. I'm talking politics. I'm talking about chicken pot pie, guys. The one and only pot pie.
Why'd you point at me?
No, I didn't point at you. I just said
you indicated the one and only pot pie.
pot pie, and I'm going to show an image of
Oh, I thought you were indicating me. My bad.
Right here, chicken pot pie. Yummy.
That's I actually don't really care for chicken pot pie. Do you?
Yeah, I love it. I care about it. The way I'm gonna use the same language you use just right now. I care about chicken pot pie, meaning I care about.
When did I say that?
You literally just said that you care about chicken pot pie. You just said you used the words care and chicken pot pie in the same sentence.
Yeah, why would you say I said that I like chicken pot pie?
Did I ever say that?
You said I'm going to use your exact language, and then you said something I didn't say.
Well, I'm saying chicken pot pie because it's something
I keep
that
knocking the corner
makes. A mother makes chicken pot pie. You're good. Keep on hitting the back of my ladder because
who sticks a ladder here, anyways?
I do. Well, how else am I supposed to get up in there, Noah? You see that big gape in the wall, that square box of space?
Yeah.
That's why there's a ladder there.
It's a fair point.
Thank you.
You've
But
got like
a mother-
16-foot ceilings
But
here.
Noah, a mother makes chicken pot pie for her family.
I don't
because
think
she
Mom ever
cares.
made chicken pot pie.
Your mom
Not homemade chicken pot pie. It just wasn't worth the time and effort.
Has your mother ever made chicken pot pie, frozen or homemade?
Yeah.
So there you go. Like that's a very motherly thing.
Yeah. Well,
Chicken
feeding your
pot
kids
pie.
is a very motherly
Yes,
thing.
it is.
It's a nurturing thing.
So let me.
It's a
I wanna-
necessary thing.
Let me hear about your childhood, please.
Well, it entails a lot of children.
How many kids?
Well, not in my family, but 3 of
Wait,
us.
so your mother had a different family? What are you saying?
My family is, and my mother's family is the same because we're one family. No kids outside that are related.
Kids aren't allowed outside.
No. There's just there's just nobody related to us who's outside, like through mom or dad, except us. There's 3 of us, and both my brothers are older than me. I'm the youngest.
So you're the youngest.
I am the youngest at 24.
How do you think being the youngest affected you the most? The most.
Well, in some respects, I felt like I had to keep up, and in other respects, I knew I didn't have to because I was removed by a few years.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was also removed by 5 years. 5 years of existence I was removed by.
Yeah.
And I'm still better than
Oh my goodness.
most of my family. Noah, tell me about your childhood and how that was. I
What?
know you talked about being born in Florida. You moved to Texas.
Yeah.
You had a little cul-de-sac. Gigantic trees.
Well, I didn't tell you about the church we went to.
No, tell me about the church.
So the church we went to was it was a bit run down, and it was more of in the outskirts area.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of Houston. So we drove. From what I don't remember the drive, but apparently it was like an hour and 45 minutes to get there, just to get across town to church. And they had a Sunday school for Latin kids because there's a huge Latin community there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an old rundown school at one point. And so there's 2 buildings connected by a walkway with a covering the whole way. And then there was a playground. And it was a little bit different because they were a type of church that in the early 2000s or late 90s, or I could be wrong, but maybe it was the early 90s, they had a standoff with the feds.
Really? Almost like a Waco. Like Waco, Texas.
Yeah, they were...
It wasn't a church, but it was a compound.
Yeah, well, this wasn't a compound. This was just
a church. But it had a standoff, like a gun standoff?
Standoff with guns.
And you were there. Oh, you weren't there for this, but
No.
it was the same church.
Same core of people who were there.
What? Why was it? What? Who? Do you know who notified them to the feds? No, being like, hey, this is a dangerous organization.
I don't know the specifics on why they might have been labeled dangerous.
Yeah.
Other than the kids weren't going to a public school; they were being co-op homeschooled.
Okay.
And what we didn't grow up with, being homeschooled, is that in the early 90s, there's a huge push against homeschooling.
Yeah.
As being dangerous. So,
yes. Which I fully support, by the way. Just
completely
side
opposite.
Note.
Wait, you fully support what?
I fully support not being homeschooled.
Oh.
And labeling that as dangerous. But go ahead. Well, you said you're fully against that, so you are.
I'm against your position.
So you're for homeschooling.
I'm for if you have kids and you want to homeschool them.
Okay, that's a.
Yeah.
Well, don't be surprised if you in 25 years from now.
Well, if they turn out as bad as us.
Okay.
25 years from now.
How old are you? 20.
I'll be 49 25 years from now.
So I'll be.
You're gonna report me at 49 that I have kids.
15 years from now, I'll be reporting.
My kids at 49 should be as old as I am.
That's.
Or close to it, as I am right now.
When do you plan on having kids, Noah?
I guess I would fall within the 5-year mark, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It could happen in a year. Could happen in 5
You
years.
think you'll have kids in a year?
You?
Me?
Did
No.
you say I?
Yeah.
Me.
I said you.
Okay. I couldn't understand you. I thought you said you.
That's what I just said.
Not me as a whatever,
Me.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I don't know.
Okay.
You can meet the one, and then 2 months later, you're married.
That's pretty fast.
9 months later, you have a kid. It's only 11 months. It's less than a year. From the time of this recording. So, in any case, so this was a core group of guys who were for homeschooling, and the feds wanted to take the kids.
Yeah.
And then just before the feds were really going to raid the church / school, somebody from within the local authority notified them and said, hey, just get the kids out the back.
Wow.
And so they got the kids out the back, and then the standoff stopped.
Wow.
That's generalizing.
Yeah.
So
I would like
nobody
to
was
find out
shot
more.
or shot at.
Who could I contact to find out more about this story?
I
Would
only
your
recall.
father know? I'll invite John on the podcast. I don't care.
I guess he might. No names. In any case, well, there was a guy called Brother Vaughn, and he was the pastor. You might type that in online, and that might pop up.
Okay.
Not too often that churches have a standoff with the feds.
Yeah, that's not.
So, in any case, so there's that, but that was before we showed up.
Okay.
So we showed up, and we went to this church for a while. And I do recall protesting at an abortion clinic at some point.
As Christian churches do. If you can take one thing away from this podcast,
Not
which I
every
highly
church
encourage,
does this because
churches love to stand in front of Planned Parenthoods.
Actually, I don't know if it was actually a Planned Parenthood.
Well, they're not just called abortion clinics, Noah. Have you ever ridden your bike on the road and seen a sign for, hey, abortion clinic?
I think there's only like a handful in the whole state of Virginia.
Yeah.
So
They're a little bit more low key.
they're not typically too flashy.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Anyways,
So
they protest against, at this abortion clinic. And what else?
Well, that's just one thing I remember.
So you were there, actually.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
Well, we moved away when I was 6.
So you were like 8, maybe.
No, we moved away from there when I was 6.
Oh, okay. So you were like 6 or 5 or 6.
5 or 6, because my memories aren't dated then.
Okay.
I can't date those memories. I would imagine I was closer to 6 than I was to 5 because most of my memories are around 6, right as we're moving. So, I remember having Christmas by a fireplace with my uncle. He came down to visit, and yeah, that was nice. And it snowed. It snowed once.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to play in the snow.
And where was this? Was this Virginia?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to play outside in the snow because I apparently had a fever. The one time it snowed in Texas while we were there, and they had just enough to scrape together, basically dusting of snow, to throw snowballs. I wasn't allowed because I had a fever. And as a kid, and your parents being protective, don't want your fever to get worse by going out in the cold.
Yeah.
The one time it snowed.
That's sad, Noah. Do you think that time?
Well, I didn't say it was sad. I was just like disappointed.
Oh, disappointed.
Yeah.
Okay. That's sad, man. Hearing you tell me about that. That's actually pretty sad.
Not too sad. Just
Sad enough. Do you think that affects you?
no.
That one memory from your childhood, you don't think that has any effect on how you came out to be?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, I also remember, this is like when I was really young, one of the fleeting images of being like 3 or 4, being held by my grandmother on my mom's side on a beach in Florida. I think it was Florida. Yeah. We were visiting. I think we were on vacation because we moved away when I was 1. So to have that memory, we must have been on vacation. Anyways, it was a beach. Maybe it was Houston. I don't know. And I remember it was slightly overcast, and I had a severe headache. And I had to stay under a tent because Grandma had to hold me because I had a headache. So I remember that too. I don't know. It's weird images that you remember. Do you remember much at 3, 4, 5?
I remember some when I was 4. I don't want to say 3 because that's pretty.
It's pretty young.
It's pretty young.
It's only like 2 images I can think
do
of.
you ever like notice when you're talking about like your memories as a child and you're like, oh, it was probably like 4, and people are like, you don't remember that. Do you ever have that?
Yeah.
That fucking sucks because I lived those days. And people want to negate the fact that I lived those days. They're like, yeah, you don't remember?
Well,
Yeah, you don't remember?
well, that's because everybody who does that is like 50, and they can't remember when they were 19.
They can't remember when they were like 51. Wait, did you just say 50?
I said 50.
They can't remember when they were 49.
Yeah. Well, they can't remember what it's like being 18.
Yeah.
Like,
I
think
hate
one
to
of-
lose these days because, man.
well, just remember the fact that when you are 50, you might forget a few things about being 18.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the perspective of
Each year you grow.
That's actually an interesting thing you bring up.
Thank you.
I was thinking about that.
I'm
as
going
I
to take credit for that, even
Yeah.
though I have no idea.
while I was getting the batteries for your recorder that you didn't need.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how I've had some older people talk to me about things in my life, and I think they've lost perspective of not everything is just for the convenience of a few decades from now.
Exactly. And then, like, plus, like, when you're talking about, like, I don't know, I feel like fathers have this thing about, like, you know,
I wasn't even talking about my dad, but
Oh,
yeah.
sure. But, like, I mean, like, especially fathers, you know, old people in general, but especially fathers have this thing of being like, when I was your age, I was fucking laying brick. And you're like, dude, what? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like all they remember is the fucking hardship, and they're like, you definitely, you know, you're a fucking pussy. Because you didn't have that.
I believe that for all of 2 seconds until they start reminiscing about all the times they were being lazy
Yeah.
and doing stupid stuff that cost people money and nearly cost each other's lives. Like, I can count maybe one time where I almost cost my brother's life.
And when was that?
I can't quite nail that down. 12.
What did you do?
Well, we were in a heated argument and pulled a knife.
You pulled a knife?
Yeah.
What?
Well, I was stupid. So, anyways, he disarmed me. Like
You almost stabbed your brother to death.
I didn't stab. I wasn't.
Did you think about stabbing him?
It was an empty threat, is what it was.
But did you
and
think
he knew,
about stabbing him?
Well, he knew.
Did you in your mind have like an image of like you stabbing your brother in blood and just spewing blood?
If a younger brother has never thought about stabbing their older brother,
That's a great thought. I have 4 brothers.
how many times do you think my older brother thought about stabbing me?
More than you have stabbing them, probably. They probably thought about stabbing you as a baby and being like, "Oh, that would feel
No,
fucking great."
no, that's just sadistic. No, I mean, just we're brothers.
Is it as
we get on each
sadistic,
other's
though?
nerve? Yes, it is. It's more sadistic to stab
It's
a baby.
more sadistic.
Yes,
Really?
to stab a baby
Stab a baby
over a
that baby's a
bratty
bitch. That baby's a fucking bitch.
Oh my goodness. In any case, if a younger brother has never thought about stabbing an older brother, good on you, because
That's yeah.
I mean, we just got on each other's nerves. So
Noah, let's talk about.
Sorry to cut you off, but talking about the older people who reminisce about the hard work, and then they start talking about all the stuff they did that cost everybody damages. Like maybe 4 or 5 times I heard my dad and uncle talk about the times their cousins and themselves being stupid nearly cost each other's lives. You know, like driving 4-wheelers on a military runway in the snow. Not only is there a risk of an emergency landing, which there shouldn't be in the snow, but there's the fact that they almost got run over by 2 different SUVs at the same time because it was almost a whiteout. And so they're trying to chase down whoever's running across their runway, and they don't see him, and literally going side by side the opposite direction.
Wow.
Yeah, 4-wheeler with a dude on a sled of aluminum bent, and they're just having fun, and then this SUV goes right by them out of the snow. So, and it's just stupid stories like that I never had a problem with, because as growing up, I didn't try to.
You weren't allowed to play in the snow.
Well, no,
Correct.
that one time. But I wasn't trying to kill nobody, and I wasn't trying to play on a military base in the blizzard. So, yeah, I feel like they reminisce about how hard they worked, just to counterbalance the fact that they almost killed each other. They nearly killed each other like every other week.
Noah, let's talk about like your childhood. I'm sorry, not your childhood, but your early teenage years. What was going through your mind? What was your thought pattern? Like, what kind of stuff? What was holding you back from being the person you are today when you were 13?
Well, I mean, I've talked about it before. Where, all 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds aren't necessarily sure of who they are.
No.
And
but I want to hear personal experiences.
Well,
tell me a story right now from back then.
From back then?
Yeah, that caused some sort of embarrassment or self-doubt in oneself.
Well, sometimes it was unclear as to how to I don't know, talk to adults and kids, because I was raised a little bit different. So,
how were you raised?
Well,
exactly?
Raised up in the sense that I was taught from a very young age that there's problems with the legal system, and there are with all
what kind of problems.
That I believe today or then?
Then.
Oh, at that time, really, it was just like what laws people were operating under. So it was very way above a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So at that time, all I understood was that, well, some people are confused about what laws to operate under. So, or to agree or disagree on.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a law?
What would be one? What was the biggest sticking point? I guess it would be like how to sign a contract with your name. Mm-hmm. And some people believe,
and for people who don't know how to sign contracts, which I'm not discriminating against anybody who's watching the podcast, but usually, from my understanding, it's first name, right? Middle initial or name, you can choose, and then last name.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can change. Sometimes you can start with your last name.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So it can be a Lehman initial, middle name, then first name.
And what about that was confusing?
Some people believe that writing in a different color. So like on most legal documents, you write in all black.
Yeah. Some
thought that it might be better to write in blue.
What would that affect if you wrote in blue ink instead of black ink?
It was from as a kid. Again, this is all remembering years and years ago.
Yeah.
So what I had initially thought was, from what I'd been told, that it was things to do with blue. Your blood is it's not red.
No.
Till it's exposed to oxygen. It's blue. And so they thought that, well, if you write in blue, it'd be a man writing who's living. But it was also to signify that you're not under the jurisdiction of the color of law, which you go Google it. It's something. It's something I never got into.
I really never heard of this before. This is like pretty new to me.
Is it?
Yeah, like writing your name in different colors of ink because it signifies.
Well, really, it's just blue. It's not like rainbow.
Yeah, it's just blue, but because blue
supposedly
was
was
like your blood.
Yeah, but from a living person, not exposed or
Yeah.
dead. So not red, not black, just
But blue.
Blue.
That's very unique.
Well, it's also to signify
What
royalty.
is the type of person to usually believe in that kind of, or not the, but
Type
like,
of person?
yeah,
There are
what
all
kind
types of persons that believe that.
really?
Yeah, so you can have a hippie, believes that. Hippie-ish type person. You can have like an extreme, not extreme, but like a strong believing patriot. You can have somebody who just wants to act out differently. I met several different people from different law calls that my dad was involved with, and they were interesting people. Some of them used to work on helicopters for the military and still do. Some of them used to be lawyers or cops, or some of them used to be one actually used to work for the mafia, but he got
What
out.
mafia? Italian?
Polish. Pretty sure it was Italian, but I couldn't name the name. It's been years. So, but he was there more to negotiate, not beat anybody up. Mission success, apparently.